Lifestyle in New York. Hey guys, how are you? You still in New York? Y'all air getting better? I heard y'all had a lot of pollution. I guess coming from the fires in Canada, which really makes no sense. But I hope that y'all air is clearing up. Holla, Dolce Vita. How are you? That's good. Yeah, I love when people like I'm amazing, and I'm like, yes, you are. Yes, you are. I'm amazing. Today is a very, very, very great day. Mm, mm. Look, y'all, I couldn't even wait to share this message. The goal was for me to get on here and record the message and have like these really dope ass graphics and just ego. And my heart was just like, no, you got a message on your heart that you want to share. Um, so that's what we're going to be doing this August 8th. Lioness Gate Portal Energy. I feel like whatever your choices created up to this point, the best way to keep anything that you are ready to shift out of, the best way to keep from getting stagnant and stuck in that energy and repeating certain traumatic reenactments, is to detach from judging what's coming up, because a lot of us made some really, really tough choices in our spiritual awakening leading up to this point. And those choices are now reverberating through our world, and you can feel it and you can see it. And so it's a lot more personal accountability that is being asked of us to release the ego. Hey, Drupa. To release the ego. Thank you, La Dolce Vita. To release the ego. The ego is afraid, rightfully so. We are the first generation to be the curse breaking, generational breaking, access to all knowledge at our fingertips. We're the first generation. We are most of the Gen Zs, the Gen X, even forward to the millennials. Like, we are that generation. We are what the world was praying for and needing. That's why so many of us are so gifted, so talented, but we're not really able to position ourselves to monetize those gifts and talents, because there are a lot of responsibilities in the world, and there are a lot of expectations and standards created by a toxic culture that teaches you to grind, to hustle, to work hard, to effort. And I think for a lot of us, we just kind of burnt out with that. It's just like, I don't want to manifest like that anymore. I don't want to kill myself to manifest. Maybe you know people in your family who are successful, but you were there to witness the journey, and you see the way it pulled on their health, the way it pulled on their mental health, whatever they were doing. And you're like, I don't want to do it like that. I don't want to become a millionaire, only to end up with a lot of health issues because I wasn't able to take time to slow down in life and take care of myself. Um, we're seeing that. We're seeing how I don't want to invite the very thing that I came to release from my life. And so, listen, y'all, I've been talking about two earths, two planets splitting. I've been talking about the 3D matrix, which includes all of the expectations, all the societal standards, all of the patriarchy teachings, the teachings, religion. So many things were so oppressive to the feminine alone. By oppressing the feminine, by manipulating the natural state of the way nature actually flows, we actually were being distorted in the way that we show up. A lot of us don't know who we are. I had a few days this week, let me just be real vulnerable for a moment. I had a few days this week where I wanted to close the business down. I was going to close the shop, the business, and the courses, everything. And I'm not saying I'm not going to do that. But I've done so much work up to this point, and every year for August 8th, I would have this huge ceremony, this huge puja where I would work, work, work. I mean, I really wasn't taking time out to take care of myself as much as I needed to. And I'm feeling the effects of that, right? I'm being responsible for that. And so this year, I'm not doing what I usually do. I'm not following any rules, any expectations. I'm only going to move when I'm inspired to do so. I am in an intensive feminine healing right now, and I'm actually creating my program where I'm going to share with you like these really, really powerful ways that you can basically hack your subconscious mind and trick yourself, not trick yourself, but hypnotize yourself in a positive way, in a way that benefits you. And so I have recorded 8 days of channeled messages, meditations, exercises that you can do to tap into this energy. And I'm going to be uploading that on Patreon tonight. So if you want to work on some feminine healing, just to let you know, that starts tonight. Okay? And yes, to normalize being slow and steady with ourselves. That's exactly what we're being called to do. And this is so opposite. This is so opposite. You can't hear me. Is anybody else having trouble hearing me? Let me get this working as best as I possibly can on this side. Can y'all hear me? Okay, good, good, good. Okay, awesome. Um, so as we are watching the 3D matrix collapse, you're also watching some of the things that you created collapse. You're watching some of the things that you wanted for yourself just not work out the way you wanted them to. For those of us who are parents, we are getting to see the effects of the way we were raised and some of those values that we retained subconsciously and maybe projected onto our children. Like, we're getting to see that now. There was a grace that was being provided for us prior to the age of Aquarius, prior to the Saturn Jupiter conjunction, prior to the galactic new year of 2019, prior to 2020. These periods of time were prophesied about. Also, the 400 years of slavery and the curse that colonization created, it just ended. Okay, that just ended as well. So that 400 years, that's gone. It's over. So now the masks are coming off. The veil is coming down. And how are you going to be with those intense emotions because of what you are observing in your own life, what you're feeling and see happening in the world? I feel like this energy is so laser pointed that it is cutting through anything in your life that's no longer serving you. And that's hard for people who pride themselves on being able to create their own reality. And a lot of these teachings, like, just been, we hear it constantly, right? You're the creator of your own reality. Well, let me tell you how to isolate which earth you're on. It's not a physical location, it's a biofeedback system. It's the way that you respond to some of the things happening in your life that determines which earth you're on. This determines what dimension you're existing in. When you're being called to a higher consciousness, a higher dimension, a higher level of love. When you like start dealing with something that's like old and toxic and karmic and just some energy that you have said you was done with, when you take 2 steps back, it feels miserable. The minute you get triggered and you respond in a way that you know is disempowering to you, you know it isn't healthy. In that moment, the way that you feel about yourself and the thoughts that you allow yourself to think determine if you are in the 3-dimensional earth sphere or the 4-dimensional or 5. In 3-dimensional, it's dense, it's heavy, it's toxic. 3-dimensional ways of having relationships is not working anymore. People are not getting married anymore. People are getting divorced and separated. People are going very non-traditional, unorthodox routes of handling their life, handling their love life, because the 3D, it is the dimension that we would call hell. This is the dimension where you're tormented by what you're thinking about. This is the dimension you get into when you're ruminating on something negative. This is the dimension that you get into when you open the door for somebody that you know is karmic and you would benefit from being done with, not should, because we're editing our words in real time. We're upgrading the way that we speak to match the consciousness being offered to us. But you know, this is not beneficial. I said that I won't go do this no more. Why am I doing this? Why am I even thinking about this person? Why am I even dealing with this? Why are we having this conversation? Those things, the ego, trying to control, even being nice, hoping that being nice will get you what you don't know how to get any other way. These things are 3D egoic patterns. Now, in the community post that I made yesterday, it's talking about these egoic patterns. And I asked you all to read through those and see which ones resonate with you and what emotion came up once you observe the resonance. That determines which earth you're on. That determines the way your story plays out. When you are detaching from the old story, because we all live in stories, right? There are stories that we tell ourselves. There are things that we tell ourselves things mean. For a lot of us, I know for me especially, I don't know if this for you, but for me, when I feel like somebody is upset with me that I care about, it's so uncomfortable where it almost feels like my whole body is on fire. And I can't sit still. I can't stop thinking about it. If I think about something else, my mind still goes back to, why are they mad at me? What did I do? What can I do to fix it? That's 3D. That's the ego trying to find a way to control the situation. So the practice right now is to not try to get people to not be upset with you, to not try to get people to accept you. Whether they accept you or are upset with you, it has nothing to do with you. Because as adults, we didn't know on the 3D earth, we didn't know, but we know now as adults, we are responsible for our emotional set points. And even though there may be others in our story that trigger us, it doesn't mean that we have to respond the way that we always have. It doesn't mean that we have to respond in a way that's negative, that's defensive, right? If you get defensive easily, this is the manifestation of somebody who has a lot of 3D things that they are being called to work through. Being defensive is being in a state of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. You're shut down, but mostly fight. And the nervous system is stuck in fight. And so if you're dealing with defensiveness or even someone else who's easily defensive, that's someone who's very tender. Their wounds are still very fresh, even though they probably happened 20, 30 years ago. This is the strangeness of living in different dimensions. So you can have people in the same house, but having a different dimensional experience based on the biofeedback they create by how they respond to life. That's the 3D earth. That's what's phasing away. We are not being allowed to take the burdens and the baggage with us. There is no ascension. There will be no place where you will receive a higher perspective if you do not release the density. You must lighten your load. You must, and that begins with releasing the responsibility of other people's emotions. I'm gonna be real with y'all. I got about 4,000 notes with information in it, and I got receipts for everything that my spirit guides and my divine self communicate to me. And it takes hours, days, weeks, months to put this content together that I put together for y'all. And I wasn't really getting paid for the amount of work that I was doing. And I stopped and asked myself, why do I feel like I have to prove every single transmission that I receive? You know, it took a lot of work for me to get here. And it's not a lot of psychics who had near-death experiences and have been sharing that information 10, 15 years before things happen. That alone, I'm worthy to be in this space. I have earned the right to communicate about what's happening spiritually and connecting it to our physical reality and teaching people how to decode what's happening in life. And so I stopped doing it. I just did one more because I do like to deep dive and I do love to research and I love to share the information with others who are seeking the truth. So I did do one more and I'm going to be posting that. It's already on Patreon on every tier, where I'm going into some shit that most people probably know, but it's uncomfortable to face and even talk about it. And before I go on, I'll just say this here because I got in trouble and I don't want to do that anymore. Getting demonetized because I'm trying to share information that I think people would benefit from. Like if you don't go get it from Patreon, you just won't get it. I'm not endangering my hard work anymore to make things easy. I was being codependent in the way I ran my business, y'all. And we're in a space now where we're the first generation that grew up on jungle juice, junk food, sugar, fluoride. We just found out we had lead in our pipes. We're finding out about the heavy metals in the air. We're finding out about the iron shavings and corn flakes and, simple cereal, right? Stuff that we probably ate every Saturday morning at least. There is something that's called natural flavoring, and it's made from HEK. Okay, human embryos that are taken from the kidneys of aborted babies. Well, we don't know how much of that we've consumed. What spiritual implications come along with cannibalism, even if you didn't know? Does that put voices in our mind? Does that make it difficult to regulate our emotions? How does that affect us? Is that triggering on an alchemical level to our own inner child? And so we rarely feel safe. Out of everything that I just named to you, when you stack that one thing on top of all of that, you do have a pot, a stew of many different personality disorders, mental, emotional imbalances. And I don't think nobody was able to avoid any of this. I think we all got different levels of it. So now there's this explosion in statistics of adults finding out they're ADHD, they're high functioning autistic. If you've never heard any of these words, go look it up and watch some of our podcasts and episodes where we discuss this. Because we're realizing, wait a minute, there's a reason why it's difficult for me to manage my time. There's a reason why it's difficult for me to open up, even if I am safe. There's a reason why intimacy feels so scary and uncomfortable. There's a reason why I don't trust people. There's a reason why I don't trust myself. There's a reason why I cannot sleep well at night. There's a reason why I have sleep paralysis and nightmares. There's a reason why I don't remember my dreams. There's a reason why my body is locked up and opening up sexually feels like I'm overexposing myself to energies, especially for those of us who are empaths, right? Up to this point, we weren't allowed to honor that. If you are an empath and you are a wife and you're in a relationship that was created by the patriarchal consciousness, not really considering the feminine, like your man is not most likely not going to understand that in the beginning. When you say things like, I don't feel safe to open up physically to you right now. See, on the old earth, they could buy you some flowers. They could buy you some gifts, talk that sweet talk to you. And that was it. That's all it took. And all of a sudden, now that we're discovering all of these imbalances, we're also discovering areas where we're not treating ourselves with self-worth. Now, how do you do that? When you're in a relationship that was founded on 3D societal toxic cultural expectations, how do you do that? How do you be in a relationship where you're afraid to be vulnerable? A lot of men are emotionally arrested in their development. And I know women too, but this is my channel and my focus is sharing my truth. So from what I notice, men are much younger emotionally than women are. And it has a lot to do with the way we're wired. It has a lot to do with the polarity, the difference between electrical energy and magnetism. The masculine is electrical, feminine is magnetism. The masculine is logical and reasoning, feminine is emotional, intuitive. So with these differences, a lot of women, 1 in 4 women, Dr. Gabor Mate shared this information. And before I came across it, I was saying this. But he said 1 in 4 women die early deaths in relationships, in long-term relationships, in marriages where they're not fully happy, but can't really express the emotions that they feel. 1 in 4 women are dying earlier than they would had it not been for that circumstance. Look, y'all, I don't know how that make you feel, but for me, I'm like, hell no. This is not what I want to pass down to my daughters. No. Why is this happening? Why are we paying attention to anything else other than the fact that the feminine beings on the planet who give birth to humanity are dying 1 in 4? Look at the statistics of how many women are being diagnosed with autoimmune diseases. So for the feminine-based being, it's more so affecting our immune system and our physical health. So we're having chronic fatigue. We're having dizziness, headaches, migraines, asthma, all types of autoimmune diseases that there are no names for, a lot of them. And this has been happening to me. And when you really look at the big picture, you see what's happening to the feminine seems to be happening to the masculine, but more so centered around emotional regulation, being emotionally unhealthy, right? Being mentally unstable. James Baldwin said, paraphrase, to be a Black man in America, it's like to always be hypervigilant. It's always to be somebody's target. It's always to feel this energy of aggressiveness, just because you incarnated as a Black man in America. Well, did anybody ever really talk to us about, well, what happens when we grow up? What happens when we get into our own relationships and have our own families? How does this show up? What happens if you drunk jungle juice for 15 years and maybe you've consumed MSG, which has been shown to disrupt brain development? Well, how does that affect my ability to be in relationships? Beginning with myself, because everything begins with me. So we're the first generation to not only ask these questions, but to be open to the spiritual implications, the metaphysical component. And that's what I study. For everything happening in physical reality, there is a spiritual pulse behind it. That's my focus, connecting those dots. It's heartbreaking. A lot of families have broken up, are breaking up, and just aren't strong family units. Strong, y'all heard that, it slipped out. I try to be professional as possible, but it slips out sometimes. But you know, if we don't know how to resolve conflict in a healthy way, if women have been groomed to be the ones who hold a family together, women have been groomed to be the ones to be the sacrifice of the family, the big mama, right? Aunt your mammy. Like, if you just look across time, the message that's been communicated is the feminine is strong and resilient, so she can handle it. She can carry the weight. She can carry the burden. She can make it better for everybody. She can go to work and still come home and have to prepare meals, and it's expected of her. And when she's done doing that, it's also expected of her to be able to get wet on cue so that she can have sex and fulfill her duties. Up to this point, women have been objects. We have been objectified. We have been the one to absorb the stress of life and the pain. And when that energy comes into the womb of a woman, it embeds itself within her spinal column, which is Jacob's ladder. And this energy climbs up her spinal column and implants itself in the hemispheres of her brain. So her amygdala is filled with all types of triggers based in fears from not just her stuff, but what she has absorbed. And it moves and affects the hypothalamus and the pituitary glands. This is why we're seeing so many diseases. It's not just the toxic environment and the pollution physically. We're learning to connect dis-ease to the emotional components. Most women that I talk to have to get off the phone when their man get home, or have to change the conversation when he gets home. You know why? It's because we were raised by women who were gatekeepers for the family. And it was expected of them to keep the family together. It was expected of them to not allow the family to be separated. Do it for the kids. And women smile and just bear the weight of the world and acted as if it was nothing. But she was suffering inside and screaming out. Now, if we come through that womb space that has absorbed all of that trauma, all of that burden, before you even get started in life, your nervous system is already dysregulated. And so you go through life and you attract more trauma because this trauma is locked within the body. So we're learning how energy works, right? And so what happens is we attract partners that reflect the childhood conditioning that needs to be addressed. And even when you try not to, you do. It's heartbreaking Because it's not that a lot of men are, it's not intentional. They're not bad people. They're not just trying to do it. They are the result of what happens when a gender is enabled. When a gender is told that you don't have to know how to do that emotional stuff. Women just too emotional. Suck it up. Stop crying. Be tough. Don't be a punk. Don't be a sissy. You hear this over and over again, and what happens? You realize it's not safe to be emotional. So men can't handle the intense currents of energy that move within these emotions. And so women try to keep the peace. And so we don't talk about certain things. We don't want to upset him. And I can remember watching my granddaddy, in my grandmama's relationship, and she learned how to not upset him as much as she possibly could. We're the generation that had 4 or 5 times over this pain and this wounding. And we're expected to get up and function like regular humans every day, right? Get up and go to work, clock in no matter what, do what you got to do no matter what. So we're constantly pushing down, pushing through, pushing by ignoring. And so when I really, really got committed to my spiritual journey, and I wanted to open a spiritual shop, and I wanted to create meditations and courses, like it was nothing that I was not willing to do, because the pain was so great. And I knew with the right tools on the other side of that is great power. As I was doing this, I had no idea how bad it really was. And so a lot of us that came through religion, we're still processing some of that. That don't go away just because you decide to not be religious anymore, because you begin to see the interpretations and the negative effects that it had. I mean, to tell a woman that she has to have sex with her husband to keep him from cheating because Satan will get a foothold in her relationship, that's a lot of pressure. So I got to work. I got to do everything everybody else do. Be the nurse, be the doctor, be the therapist, be the cook, be the planner, be the cleaner, be the maid, be the chauffeur, be the one that child care. I got to do all of this, and I got to please a man, and I got to keep one eye open to make sure the devil not getting a foothold in my relationship. That's a lot to put on one person. So if the woman is the weaker vessel, why are the expectations not resembling her being a weaker vessel? We had no choice but to go into our masculine energy to survive this world. Absolutely no choice. Men had a choice. Men were able to bypass the feminine, ignore the feminine, discount the feminine, not understand the feminine, blame the feminine. I mean, Adam blamed Eve. And God took his side and was like, yeah, it's her fault. I'm going to curse her for that. You go get in some trouble too. But, you go sweat the sweat of your brow. However, Eve, yeah, she wrong for that. She shouldn't have did that. And so she's going to be cursed with pain, and she's going to bleed and have, menstrual blood come out of her. And we're going to say that she's cursed because of this. Like, what is that teaching? The body count of God of the Bible is greater than any sociopath I know. I mean, you can put all of them together and the body count still don't reach that. But for a lot of us, it's too painful to pull out of that. And I get it. Because for a long time, religion was the only salvation that I knew. It was the only thing that I had to try to make sense of this immense amount of pain that I felt inside of me. However, on the other side of that, a lot of us were ADHD. A lot of us were autistic. A lot of us had brain development issues from the very foods maybe the people that raised us was feeding us. And we were told to pray when something was going wrong. Pray about it. Well, this led to a huge number of people not knowing their status. Not sexually transmitted diseases, but emotionally and mentally? What's your status? I have complex PTSD, depressive disorder, ADHD. Sometimes I feel autistic and neurodivergent, just a little bit of it. Codependency. These are my things. What are yours? That's important, because if you don't know what you're working with, you can't change your life. You will forever be a victim to what you do not know. And we're here now. That's a difficult conversation to have, especially with people older than us, or with people who it's just not time for them to awaken to these truths. It's just not time for them to be able to ask these questions and say, is this scripture really something that's helpful? How do I really feel about this? You know, it's not for everybody. But what happened was, I think a lot of us were in so much pain, and we knew that there was a way to create a better reality for ourselves. We got so deep in spirituality, we just started spiritual bypassing. We weren't able to, we weren't able to even see what we were creating, because it was like, I'm trying to heal. I'm trying to stop this generational repetition of these curses. I'm trying to figure out what's going on with me and what can I do. Praying ain't been enough. I need more than that. I need to know what's happening with my brain. I need to know what's happening with my nervous system. You know, is my vagus nerve dysfunctioning? You know, not functioning properly? Is, or like, what is it? What's happening to me? And so we've been searching and calling for these answers. Spiritual bypassing basically means you use spiritual things outside of you, philosophies, to feel, to give yourself a false sense of security, to feel like you're okay. And I did this for a long time. I was so afraid at failing at the one thing I finally feel a connection with, which is finding a better way, learning to heal. I was so afraid at failing at that. I was so afraid at repeating the same traumas that the generations before me passed down to me, that I was moving too fast. Every spiritual practice that I found that was transformational, I really wasn't ready for what it was gonna do. I didn't know that I had so many illusions in my life. I didn't know that I romanticized relationships. I didn't know that I was still dealing with codependency. I just didn't know. I didn't know where I began and others ended. I didn't know which emotions were mine and which were not. I didn't know what I was supposed to be investing my time into. And so spiritual bypassing can blind you. Light can be blinding, just as darkness can. And so we got on the bandwagon with the love and light, and it was like, okay, let's go, let's get it. And then I started studying the left-hand path and shared that information, because if you are not able to do a review of everything that's available to gather a conclusion, like how do you change your life and you're not learning about different ways life manifests? You know, and I'm not recommending this for everybody, but for me, that was a natural flow for me, to learn the hidden occultic reasons behind what I perceive to be mass human suffering. And we're all waking up from this illusion. This is a simulation. Everything is a hologram. When something happens and you have an emotional flashback, okay, let's just say somebody get upset with you and they just look at you a way where you know they upset with you about something. That might just send you back to when you was 9 years old, when your parent looked at you like that, or one of your siblings looked at you like that, or maybe you were getting bullied. Whatever it is, that emotional flashback comes up, and in that moment, if that washes over you and you feel yourself getting dysregulated, 9 times out of 10, you're dealing with the trauma that's locked within the body. And somatic processing seems to be the best way to work through that, because you can't intellectualize the spiritual awakening. And I think a lot of us did that. And we were trying so hard to get away from what had hurt us. We were moving too fast. And so for every meditation, every affirmation, every candle that you lit, every crystal that you bought, every petition that you made, every time you reached out to your ancestors, about something, all of that, those seeds, they're germinating in the darkness. And what we must remember, that this is a spiritual warfare. So we have thought forms, which is our own maladaptive ways of perceiving and thinking, the things that we ruminate about. That creates an energy around us. And that energy created by the subconscious. Okay, your conscious mind is only 5% of creation. Very similar to dark matter and dark energy. 63%, dark energy, the rest of it dark matter. Only 5 of it is about, the matter that we can see. So you see the similarities between a dark matter, dark energy, and the subconscious mind. And DNA, the junk DNA, 95%, like, we don't even know what we're capable of. The brain, we're only using, 5%? There's still the other 95. Like, what happens when your brain starts to wake up? What happens when the solar flares and Sirius Rising, which began on July 26th? What happens when those activations from the spiritual sun is activating you? So now you do feel more tender. You feel more intensely than you ever have before. You become more sensitive to energy. You can't go to places you used to go and be comfortable. Can't have the conversations you used to have and be comfortable. You can't talk to yourself the way you used to and be comfortable. The divinity within us is telling us it's not healthy for you to talk like this to yourself. It's not healthy for you to be in this place. It's not healthy for you to, whatever it is, listen to that. At the Super Bowl, right after lockdowns, I've showed the picture in the decodings with the metaphysical lectures that we've done, but it said, feel nothing. This was a Pepsi ad. And we know Pepsi upside down is ISDED, dead, is dead. Feel nothing. Super Bowl performance. I said, what, like, who wants to feel nothing? And I realized, even myself, a lot of us have love addictions. We may not have substance abuse. We may not drink too much, eat too much, but we may have love addictions where we attach to people and we trauma bond and we get bonded with people in our traumas, and maybe we love bomb each other because I really, really need somebody to see my worth and I don't want you to leave me, so I'm just going to keep doing things that I feel like it's like dropping these bombs of love on you, these acts of service, and doing this and buying that and doing that. Just so afraid of being alone. We are seeking relief, maybe not to feel nothing, but we're seeking relief. With everything that we do, every bad habit that we have, we're seeking relief. Every human on this planet is seeking relief. So what's going to cause us to feel nothing? How are they going to accomplish this? Can this be done wirelessly? Do frequencies affect brain waves? Theta, delta, y'all remember these words? Alpha. This is a collective hypnosis, a hologram, subconscious subliminal programming. Okay, that's the 3D. To begin creating your life from a space of being healed, you begin to detach from those things and say, wait a minute, hold on. No, I'm valuable without this. I can love myself flawed. I ain't got to be perfect. I can do that. Wait a minute. Yes, I'm having negative thoughts. And yes, my business may not be doing as well as I hoped it would, or my relationship, or my weight loss journey, my, whatever it is, my financial situation, things may not be going as planned, but I'm still worthy. And I got breath in my body, and that proves that I'm successful because I incarnated in a time where everything is changing. And anything that was holding us in a state of oppression and suffering, we're being released from it now. It's uncomfortable, but I'm here. That means I matter without any of this shit, without the 3D proving to me that I matter. You matter without it. And this energy feeds into the archons, which is these are these entities we can't see. They exist in the invisible spiritual realm, in the astral realm, specifically 4D. This is where the thought forms are that we created. But you also have this other energy of these entities that feed on suffering and sadness and depression and pain. And so it keeps us in these cycles of hurting ourselves. It may not be cutting. It may not be reckless behavior. It may not be making bad choices sexually. May not be any of those things. The worst one yet is the invisible punishment. When you're critical of yourself constantly, just tearing yourself to shreds, like, why do you keep doing that? You stupid. It's never going to get better. Why do you keep trying? Like that voice, do y'all feel that and hear that? That's a real entity. And there are many of them. And they are in the air with the dark matter that has been released because of the particles they've been colliding. It's releasing something. And it's not staying inside of those machines. So how do you deal with that? How do I respond to this voice without responding in a way that gets me caught up in that loop, in that cycle? Because once you're in that cycle, these are the 3D programs. When you're being called to higher consciousness, that shit feels so yucky. It feels so painful to be in it. And it is the discomfort that is the warning system that lets you know you're going in the wrong direction. That's not the way you want to go. That's a dead end. Go ahead and turn around. So to feel nothing, is that why the food has been engineered? Because you can definitely change the neurology of a human being with what they consume, drink, eat, watch, hear. You can definitely create clothes that have heavy metals way beyond what's acceptable and considered healthy. And we're wearing those clothes all over the largest organ, our skin. And we all looking around wondering why people acting so crazy, including myself sometimes. Y'all, this is where we are. So like I said, I have this massive amount of information that I've just been collecting the information. I don't really know how to get it all out. It's so much. And so I share bits and pieces. And in most of my posts, y'all, like, I give so much information for free. But that's just like a tip of the iceberg. And there is a certain responsibility that comes with being someone called to navigate chaos in a responsible way. You can actually take this chaotic energy and create something beneficial. This is the whole purpose in alchemy. The alchemy of our attitudes, the alchemy of our mindsets. There are a lot of us who are supposed to be creating something, inventing something, innovating something, calling people together, speaking our truth, sharing our voice, sharing our perspective. But because it's new, because it's not common, because there are some people in our lives who may judge us by this information that they probably hadn't even researched, but just take it at face value. And we're afraid to shake things up too much. The world needs different perspectives now more than ever. Because this force that we are battling with right now, it's fighting for its life. 3D do not want to let go. 3D does not want to go away because the people who rule that kingdom feed off of our suffering, our not enoughness. There are people who can sing better than any singer we ever heard, and we'll probably never hear them do anything because they've been programmed to believe something about them was flawed, wrong, not enough, bad, not good enough. There are people who have the most amazing recipes, and we may never get to taste them because it's difficult for them to believe in themselves and actually take risk, actually bank on themselves and invest in themselves. And maybe there are Agent Smiths and NPCs around them constantly fueling information into them to make them feel less than. It's this energy that hates life. It doesn't want us to step out and be bold and shine. And this Lioness Gate portal is saying, baby, every soul on this planet is meant to shine. Find where you shine and shine. Don't even worry about what nobody else go think or say. Do it just for the sake of shining your light. Because we ain't for everybody. Everybody ain't for everybody. And most people who are actually some of the most powerful people are black sheeps, outcasts. People don't understand them. And people think you're crazy. I think y'all crazy. I think I'm crazy sometimes. And that's okay, because if we're not crazy, then we're trying to be normal. And normal is a myth. Normal is a fantasy. Normal is a holographic reality. What is normal? And why do we strive to fit in and assimilate? And we know we came here to shake it up in the best way possible. So I'm going to pull a card now. I don't know what I'm going to say before I say it. I'm just following the impulses of what I feel inside of me, what I'm being guided to see. But a lot of us here, whether you watch this video during the live or you catch it later, you're going to feel this infusion of confidence. I was not going to allow myself to get in front of y'all and not speak from this space of confidence. It took 3 days for me to clean my act up and my mindset and be consistent, to be all heart, all courage, to get my ego, TKO, total nap out. Just pull the knapsack out. Okay, baby, I need you to lay down and take a nap. All right, it's time for my I divine self to step forward. Thank you for trying to keep me safe all these years. I appreciate you. You know, the ego, not the enemy. And once I got myself aligned, I went and worked out. Like every day, it's been discipline. What is going to move me in the direction I want to be? Discipline. Don't get distracted. Don't start scrolling. Don't get on social media. Don't get distracted by the feed. Discipline. Listen, let me say this before I pull this card. We would benefit from paying attention to who am I and what can I do with what I have right now to support life and not stagnancy, not death. That's the question. Why aren't we chanting? If you don't know nothing else but Om, we know Om is the vibrational frequency of creation. It is the sound in which all creation came to be. If this dark matter energy is in the air, and I channeled this for y'all, in 2020? And in 2022, that was the year of noon. And that energy is still here, that dark energy. Why aren't we programming this energy? Why aren't we speaking into our atmosphere? I'm going to tell you. You know what you can do, and you can find a billion videos about what to do, but to actually do it, to consistently show up, whether or not you can be sure you're going to get the outcome that you want, that is the definition of faith. I don't even know for sure if this is going to do what it is I'm hoping it is going to do, but I'm going to invest in it. I'm going to detach from the outcome because I know as a spiritual being, I grow through the process. It don't matter what the outcome go be. The process is cultivating and nurturing my spiritual self. There is beauty in not knowing who you are. There's beauty in not having a strong sense of self. There is beauty in not having a secure attachment because you get to experience the process, and what you learn through that process cannot be taught in any school. Chant if this is resonating with you. The air is waiting on you to speak, to give it a new charge, to step into your office. We have become so conditional in this journey and so attached to what can I get? Well, what is going to do for me? That is what's separating us from spirit. That's why so many of us are dealing with depression and anxiety and rage and frustration and loneliness, because you're separate from spirit. You have been severed from your own soul. If you're in relationships and you're going through a spiritual awakening, you have a lot of support there for you, but you got to step up. And you have to say, I'm gonna commit. I'm gonna commit. And I see power in being less attached to the outcome going my way. I'm gonna commit to the process. Maybe you're not chanting for you. Chanting is what keep coming to me, because every one of us here have breath in our body, and we have the capability to produce sound. If you aren't putting a vibrational frequency of higher consciousness into your environment, of course the negative, critical self-talk is going to be the thing that you pay attention to the most. And it will also be the thing that drives you the most. And you will find yourself making decisions from a place of desperation instead of passion, because it drains passion. The 3D matrix system does not want passionate people creating a passion economy. It wants us to work for the sake of material obligations only. And as long as we are stuck doing that, our spiritual journey, and it don't matter if they getting awakened. It don't matter if they are experiencing the 72,000 circuits within their body waking up. It doesn't matter if the kundalini energy within them is finally waking up. It doesn't even matter if they're getting energy from the spiritual sun known as Sirius. They ain't gonna be able to do nothing because they can't even pay attention that long, because they got ADHD, or because they have this and they have that. This social engineering had a purpose. And the purpose was to stifle the spirituality coming to the planet. When you decide, no, I will not live my life like this. No, I'm not accepting this. I'm not accepting this. I don't care what the 3D matrix is showing me, my reality, what my senses are sending back to me as information, because all of this can be changed. All of this is open to interpretation. Okay, thank you for showing me 100 reasons why I'm not worthy of that thing that I want, but I'm going to choose to believe that I'm worthy anyway. Well, you don't have proof of that. I don't have to. See, when you build yourself up, when you work on your energy circuits, when you're working on your chakras, you're working on your subconscious mind, you're working on the way that you respond to life, you're shifting your perspective instead of trying to change the veneer of things, placements, and people and roles in your life, you obtain help, spiritual support. All right. I'm going to pull this card. How y'all doing? We just gonna spend some time. Y'all know your girl, she worked hard, and I gave it all that I had Last year, I ended up with vertigo. I worked so hard. I launched New You Mystery School. I taught classes every week, podcasts. I launched Dark Goddess University to help women to heal and retain their sense of sovereignty and their power back, right? And I burnt out like a star. I burnt out. I was just doing too much. I was working 12-hour days every day for 2 years straight, and homeschooling, and in school myself, becoming a certified sound healer, becoming a certified herbalist, going back to school to learn about the attachment theories. Like, I worked so hard. I wasn't really allowing myself to receive the fruits of all of that labor. So that's what we're doing now, and that's why I'm not having a huge ceremony this year. This is what we're going to do, because a lot of us have spiritually bypassed our asses into a state of not knowing what to do next. And a lot of us are afraid to make a move because we're looking at all of the other times we made a move and it didn't seem like it was the best move to make. I don't know if y'all can relate. Y'all doing all right out there? Rika Shai, committing to the process. I awaken, yes, to this live moments ago to receive this message. Ashe. Disconnect from the outcome, y'all. It's so up in the air right now. Limitless possibilities. That's why we feel the tension. See, when you're being called to be a new earth participant, a new earth creator, you change the way that you respond to yourself, the way that you're thinking. You change the way that you respond to other people. Listen, there's a couple of things that it takes to manifest something. And one of those things is repetition. And the other thing is your emotion. So if you're repeating something over and over again, and you're emotionally charged with whatever is happening, whatever you're observing, whatever you're thinking, you're feeding fertilizer to the seed of whatever that is. So it might be something you really don't want, but you're paying attention to it, which allows it to grow. You're emotionally charged. If triggers emotionally charge you and then you respond in an old 3D toxic way, you're dropping an anchor in the dimension of 3D, that's where hell is happening. That's all of this suffering and pain and terrible things happening when you allow yourself to be on that radio station, on that channel. And so to change the channel, repetition, and the emotional, feel nothing, right? Can't create nothing if we feel nothing. So being able to be emotionally charged and combine that with thoughts that are useful and beneficial, right? You're able to observe yourself, detach from what's happening, and you won't get caught up. You won't get caught up. So, moving forward, my focus is going to be healing the feminine. And, whether or not you're an empath, maybe you're an empath. And maybe you don't protect your energy as well. And maybe you don't know exactly how to create boundaries and what areas you need boundaries. Maybe you are afraid of enforcing boundaries because people so used to you not having any. You start trying to have boundaries, it's just like, who you think you are? You've been letting me do this to you. You've been letting me, and it's just, unfortunately, that's where we are. And it's time for us to let that go. It's time for us to stop being judgmental of ourselves and each other. It just does it. Like, what benefit does it do? Judgmental is, I'm observing this and I'm deciding to give a meaning to this that's negative and disempowering. Discernment is, I'm observing this and it is what it is. Like, I'm accepting it for what it is. I ain't trying to change it. I ain't trying to do nothing. It is what it is. Discernment is intuitively acknowledging something, but judgment is more so like logical mind reasoning. And maybe you have like these different filters on your mind where you perceive things. So it's just like, if you grew up and you watch people that drank turn into alcoholics, you might think that anybody that drink is an alcoholic. You know what I'm saying? And so that's a judgment. And these are like schemas that we create, where we filter through whatever we're perceiving through our own experiences. And so that right there, that's 3D. That's sunk in place energy, and it feels very dense, and it's not going to bring forth any fruit. That's just going to produce a bunch of nothing. And as the food supply chain is just being severely, severely damaged. I mean, cereal, bread, like things that the inflation alone can cause you to go back to your childhood or when you were younger, when you had hard times. And so poverty contracts is being reactivated just by being here in day-to-day life. And a lot of people don't know what to do to create a sense of stability in life. So the root chakra, you know, that's where our inner child lives, and that's the chakra that connects with Mama Earth. That's the first chakra, your first 7 years of life where you observe. And so whatever happened to you at that age, whatever you're seeing in the world now may be triggering you, and literally it's like a time machine. And your neurobiology just goes back to that. In the video that I uploaded to Patreon, let me say this before I pull the card, but the trees where we live are brown at the bottom. Evergreens, brittle. The tops of the trees are no longer reaching for the sky. They're limped and leaning over. When you see that happen to an evergreen, evergreen is one of the strongest trees on this planet. You better know that your roots are also being affected. And your nervous system is also being affected. Your nervous system is literally a tree. Look at it with the branches through the body. So this doesn't mean that we can't do anything to change it. It just means we got to be more intentional than we have been and more deliberate about what we're creating. All right, here we go. I just had to get that out. Oh, thank you, Layla. You're so pretty and helpful. Okay. All right. So what information do you have for us about this Lioness Gate portal? Because it's so much coming through. And, you know, my heart literally just bleeds for people in the world. Being an empath right now, being intuitive, it's uncomfortable. But my heart is my throne. My heart is my refuge. And as long as I am approaching life from a place of love, I can also be a point of positive communication that is going to assist us. What would you like to share with us? Oh, wait, y'all had me pulled from the bottom today. Okay. Now, if y'all been here for a little while, y'all know like 4-4, that was like one of my awakening codes, and I just kept saying the number 4. Here we go. Bava Tarini. Bava Tarini. 44, you see it? Can't make it up. 44, Bava Tarini. Let's get it in. I don't know if y'all was with us for the last Lioness Gate portal, but Bava Tarini came up then as well. And it was pretty wow how most everybody resonated with the information that was coming through. So we're going to get into learning about this goddess. She is a wisdom goddess, and she is a priestess as well. The tantric priestess of karmic release manifests with the capacity to integrate higher divine energy into even the most stubborn patterning that has so far resisted healing. When momentum is building and you don't know how to stop fueling the fire or reverse the damage, she appears. Her presence indicates that this is a powerful time for spiritual work and healing practices. I just said this to y'all. I'm telling you, we are not powerless. We are so much more powerful than we know. She will support the work, and much growth can come from it, particularly at this time. No matter how wild they may seem, the storms of your life shall be gentle. You shall emerge unharmed. I love that. Goddess Kali as Bava Tarini is a tantric priestess of karmic release and spiritual blessings. She liberates devotees from karmic struggles, especially those who keep repeating the same patterns with different players. Sound like some of our relationships, right? No shame. It is what it is. We're learning. Her presence in the reading implies the Divine Mother's blessing of a divine disruption. Divine disruption. I know that we often feel like disruptions and interruptions and interference is like the most brutal thing that can happen to us, but it's divine nonetheless. And sometimes the jolt of the disruption is such a shock that it is temporarily unpleasant, and we feel, therefore, that it is unwanted or harmful. Just because something hurt don't mean that it's harmful, y'all. However, once we allow the workings of such disruption to realign our affairs, we will come to recognize and be grateful for what is taking place. We will see it as a saving grace rather than something we had to endure. The oracle predicts the ceasing of restrictive or negative influences. Ma is adorned with flowers in recognition that she is celebrated during puja. Unlike the fierce Kali, who is adored in fearsome places in the dead of night, the kind Bhavatarini is adored in celebrations of the light. The puja or sacred ritual can be very simple. In its most basic form, it is a call to the divine ones to manifest something on earth. It is a creation of light and has a cleansing effect on those doing the puja. And if the intentions and receptivity are strong enough, on the surrounding people and the surrounding area. Bhavatarini teaches that our spiritual activities can have a positive influence, more so than we think it possible. In a reading, Bhavatarini foretells of a profoundly positive and expansive energy that will become available to us if we are willing to open our hearts up. She also reminds us that we don't have to wait until things become severe to call on the Divine Mother's assistance. Why not call for her daily? Not only to resolve issues, but to prevent them from gaining traction in the first place. If we align ourselves with such simple and happiness-inducing wisdom, our lives can become peaceful and free from unnecessary drama. Bhavatarini can take the form of Kali, Phalaharini, to destroy the results of our actions. Phala means fruit. We just talked about this. And Harini means a female who takes something away. This is so interesting because it was given to me that it's not the Lion's Gate portal. It's the Lioness Gate portal. It is a feminine portal. It is a very feminine healing energy. So what fruits are you ready to release? So Phalaharini means the woman who takes away the fruit of our actions. This means that she can conquer our karma. Kali Phalaharini can cleanse our samkaras, which is the mental psychic imprints that I was talking about. These are the familiar grooves that keep the soul repeating patterns, lifetime after lifetime. They are comprised of habitual ways of thinking and behaving that prevent us from evolving into something new and more suitable. They are the karma of stuckness, limiting our freedom, creativity, and expression. Samskaras can be negative in qualities, such as an inhuman compulsion towards perfection. But they can be something we consider positive, such as a repeated attraction towards being a healer. Although being a healer can generate spiritual benefit, if we identify with it, it can undermine our freedom to grow spiritually. Did y'all hear that? Now that right there, I've been dealing with that. I just confessed that to y'all. I was undermining my own freedom to grow spiritually because I was so committed to being a spiritual healer. I didn't even matter anymore. You know, it was just like the only thing that matters is the people that I'm here to serve. it says that it can become overly restrictive and even lead to suppression of aspects of our authentic being that don't readily fit in with the healer's archetype. Y'all, when I tell you my spirit guides and my I divine self inside my mind, they got jokes on top of jokes on top of jokes, and they're deep metaphysical spiritual things that the jokes are about. It's mind-blowing, and I tried to suppress that because I was like, I don't know no other healer who joke about the spiritual awakening. I don't know no other healer who cuss, I don't know no other healer, and I was trying to fit into the healer archetype. Humor is healing. So when you are able to laugh at yourself, and when you are able to see the humor in whatever is happening in life that may feel painful, you're transmuting that energy in real time. And I was trying to push that down. I felt inappropriate. I did. And so I went ahead and did a whole comedy show. It's a metaphysical lecture that I delivered with comedy. And it went really, really well. If you haven't seen it, I'm going to upload that tonight to Patreon because I talked about some stuff that'll get me banned. So we're not going to do that. But I'm going to upload that because there's definitely information in there you do not want to miss. And I think about Bobby Hemmett, even though I'm kind of pulling away from external things and connecting to my own power, but Bobby Hemmett, he was hilarious, you know what I'm saying? And he spoke a lot of truth, but he made people laugh too. And so if that's you, if you tend to be goofy and the clown and make people laugh, like that's divine too. And the more that we be authentic to who we are and don't try to fit into these other archetypes and trends and what everybody else doing, the more we shift out of this shit and turn the shit into fertilizer, because that's what it's meant to be. So, in the example of a healer, the Divine Mother recognizes the goodness in your heart and your genuine desire to assist. Yet she will do what is necessary to protect your spiritual awakening and free you from your attachments. Yes, even the attachment to helping others. Ooh! Look, y'all better get this. Y'all better eat this up. Like, open your heart and receive this. Because the time of being a martyr and sacrificing ourselves all in the name of being a healer, like with this Lioness Gate portal, this is the wounded healer rising, This doesn't mean that you no longer want to be a healer or that you are blocked from doing so. It means you will not be able to prop up self-value using external roles. We're going to see this happening to a lot of people who maybe were depending on this one thing. External roles will not prop you up. You cannot build your value on what you do externally, because it's gonna crash. And that is a very harsh reality to feel. And I've done it over and over again. Ultimately, this is a gift, but it is a lesson that many healers find painful in the beginning. They need to learn how to offer their heartfelt work and not be attached to how it is received. If they see immediate results and powerful effects of the work, the challenge is to not identify with what is happening and make the divine grace about their own ego. If the ego is failing these lessons and getting caught up in feeling superior or inferior, then the Divine Mother will intervene. And so we're here to talk about narcissism a lot, grandiose, right? But there's also the inferior narcissist, where you may not be focused on the grandiose great things you want people to perceive you for, but maybe you get caught up and ruminating on the negative things about yourself. That's a form of narcissism as well. It's to be self-focused to the point where you're not really even present and in your body. Now, that's another conversation for another time, because a lot of men, they have been providers and hard workers and base their external roles as the foundation of their value. But what happens when a woman is making as much money? What happens when the system changes? What happens when they lose a job? What happens when they're not getting paid as much? So it's like figuring out who you are outside of those external roles. And so a lot of men, they don't be present in their body. Healing feminine energy is embodiment practice, right? It's learning how to be in your body. It's learning how to feel your feelings and communicate them in a healthy way. But a lot of men haven't got the opportunity, and maybe don't have the drive or desire right now, maybe just don't know. And so if you're in your head a lot and you're a masculine being, you can do a lot of damage in that lack of awareness, in that lack of body awareness and mindfulness, especially to the feminine in your life. You can do a lot of damage. So I have been telling people for a while now, don't have sex when you're not in your body. If you're in your head a lot, that's not the time to trade energy with another person that you love, care about. So it's just a level of responsibility. We were only focused on STDs. We were only focused on condoms to protect ourselves, right, for a long time. And it's like, what about the energetic exchange? You know, how do you be responsible in that way? And this is leveling up. This is the conversations that need to happen to have a new earth in higher consciousness. So the lessons is that you can relish the roles you play in your life without allowing them to define you. You are asked to take care that you don't restrict yourself to the roles you play. Embrace the spiritual freedom and unconditional love necessary to be your full, authentic being. You are asked to bear the discomfort of no longer relying on certain familiar patterns to give you validation. Let me say this again. You are asked to bear the discomfort of no longer relying on certain familiar patterns to give you validation. This will open you up to greater self-realization, self-possession, and joyful freedom to be your whole self. You are on the cusp of a beautiful breakthrough into a more positive era. To amplify her blessings, open your heart to the unfamiliar. Now, I don't know if this resonated with anybody else, but definitely resonated for me. And we do have a tendency to get attached to our external roles. So when the pattern that you're expecting to show up to show you that you're successful and you're achieving something and doing good don't, you're let down. And this is a very unstable way to exist in the world that is just pure chaos right now. You cannot live that way. You can no longer, if you want to be a new earth creator, new energy, you must learn how to detach from what you do and not allow your value to be based on that, nor allow it to be based on what you're perceiving, because everything that we're perceiving is changing so fast. We're multidimensional. We're blending in and out of timelines. I wake up some days in a completely different dimension, and I'm like, this ain't even the same earth we was on yesterday. This is a whole different frequency today. We call it the Mandela effect, right? Things look different. Logos look different. Things feel different. Names are different. All of these things. And so as we're going through these quickenings and we're learning how to be our whole self, that does require you to be more multidimensional and not be one-dimensional, two-dimensional, or three-dimensional anymore. So this is an invocation that you can use to help embody Pateron, so that you don't feel like your fruits. Remember I said that we're having to face the results of our choices throughout our whole life, even the choices that we made when we were kids. It created something. And so the fruit of that and the karmic debt of that can be taken away by embracing the wisdom of the goddesses in the way that they teach us to surrender. So here's the invocation. Beloved Kali Ma, Pateron, Kali Fala Harini, please help me to release my attachments to the outcomes of my actions so that your grace can manifest without inhibition or constraint. Please abort negative karmic momentum flowing from me or towards me. I place my trust in you. You are the strength that overcomes the current. You are the peace that arises in letting go. You are the graceful and effective wisdom manifesting spontaneously for the spiritual benefit of all beings. May your beautiful kindness and liberating wisdom emanate within my heart always. May I love you more than I love certainty and control. Jama Kali, Jama, Jama, Jama. So this is the way that you can end this invocation. And one of the first things you're gonna notice is, like when we get off of this live, you're gonna notice small nuances of energy. Things are just gonna start to open up and speak to you and communicate to you. And it's gonna be like, oh, the aha moments. And so you may notice synchronicities speed up and happen more often as well. If something is ended in your life, let it. Surrender. Nurture your feminine self. Allow yourself to be remothered by the Divine Mother in the many emanations she shows up. You don't have to do it this way. You can do it anyway. But this is what I have found to be effective. So this is what it is instructing you to do, to visualize, because again, we create the new earth by visualization. We create our reality by visualization. And a lot of us who worry and get anxious, we visualize catastrophes and we think about all of the wrong things that we said and what we shouldn't have said and what we should and shouldn't do. You're creating something. You're always transmitting a signal. So, if you don't like what you see, you change it by changing the inside. So you can see yourself seated upon a lion throne. And y'all know there's no way I could have shuffled these cards to get this. With the Lioness Gate portal tomorrow, imagine yourself sitting on the lion throne with thick garlands of red flowers around your neck, hanging over your chest. Stick out your tongue and breathe out a fierce cleansing breath. Then become peaceful. Place your hands at your heart. Sense that there is a guiding presence that knows exactly what needs to happen and when for the spiritual benefits of all beings. You can trust in that. You now become willing to rest in spontaneous wisdom of the heart. Place your hands in prayer and bow your head in gratitude and reverence. You have completed your healing process. Wow. We got 44. 4 plus 4 is 8 for the August 8th Lioness Gate portal. And I'm telling you, this feels so divine. I believe that we're going to have some spontaneous healings occur. And I believe that we're going to find out that we can actually manifest more by doing less. That's the wisdom of the goddess. All right. Thank you, Drupa, Khamsin, Divine Feminine Warrior Goddess. Honey, I had no choice but to be a warrior goddess. The scars on my body tell the story, But I'm grateful because of the obstacles and the challenges and not really ever having support. Most of the support that I had through my life is like phased in and out. Like there wasn't like this one person or this one group of people that I could rely on. And that's why I would end up homeless. If I got sick and couldn't go to work, make enough money to pay my rent, I had to sleep in my car. I had to go to a homeless shelter. I had to beg people to sleep on their couch. And for a long time, I felt like I feel like I have such a big heart and I'm such a loving person. Like, why am I going through this? Why is this happening to me? And why, when I'm on my deathbed, I'm alone, right? It would be people in ICU and they would have like visitors just coming all day long, just bringing flowers. Their room would be filled with flowers and plants and balloons and cards. And I was happy for them, but it still hurted. And I realized that I embark on this journey of courage where if I have to walk it alone, I'm willing to do that. And I'm willing to sacrifice, to just let go of what I cannot control. And I think because of those experiences, it has helped me to come from a more genuine, sincere space when I do communicate and open up with others in this space. And so I hope that you are feeling more peace. I hope that you will receive more clarity. And don't allow the busyness of the Lioness Gate portal to keep you chasing. Okay? Every meditation, every channeled message, ceremonies, and healing pujas. You can have a fire ceremony. You can just do it digitally. You don't even have to break out no fire on your own. It's all there for you. And I'm going to be uploading 8 days where I will be with you every single day in the morning and at night, giving you spiritual guidance so that you can hold this energy. Because if you leave this space and you allow something to take this energy from you, it's going to be really, really difficult for you to manifest from the space of the heart, which is the throne of God, right? Goddess. This is right here. This is why they want us to feel nothing. This is why they want us to feel alone and to feel pain. This is why they want to feel like we're not enough, to feel like we're always being left out. And it was true in my case. I was. But it was a purpose in it all. It was a purpose in it all. And that divine purpose created the person that you see in front of you today. I'm so proud of her. And I still struggle. I still have difficult times. I haven't ascended to 5D, and I'm just there. If I was, I wouldn't even be here. But I can say that I never give up. I don't give up on people who don't give up on me. I don't give up on myself. And I don't quit. Look, surrender is one thing, but quitting, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. So find something on Patreon that resonates with you. Do something. The worst thing that you could do is do absolutely nothing. You're being activated. Your DNA is changing. You're growing telomeres, which extend your lifespan. What are you going to do with it? Choose this day and stay committed to your journey. And I guarantee you, the paradigm shift that we have been waiting for is going to come from inside of us. We won't need anything outside of us to validate us or to help us. And if whether you need money, support, whether you need the networking, whatever it is that you need, the Great Mother, her energy is back. And it can provide in ways that you cannot see. You don't have to see it. You don't have to know every step. Just open your heart to receive. Humble yourself. Release the need to control. Let people see you however they want to see you. It's their sovereign right to perceive however they want to. Don't try to change it. And I'm telling y'all, miracles tonight. No matter when you watch this, expect something greater to show up in your life. Head over to Patreon. I'm going to go there now and post some comedy because this was deep and it's nice to laugh. It feels good too. Namaste, namaste. I love y'all.